Make sure you're aware of what's going around. You get it.
We need to take notes there.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to send this around, just pass it around, just print your name, put
Your need to know.
NCC for department and title for student. That'll be good. Are we ready to go? Are we ready? Okay. All right. I'm Steve Morris. I'm the Director of Safety and Security at Trover Health System, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the environment of care, the different regulations that we have pertaining to fire safety, emergency management, security, hazardous waste, and a few other safety tidbits that you guys need to know for regulatory purposes. And I've got a PowerPoint here. I'm going to go step by step with you.
Hey Steve, can you talk just a little bit louder?
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't. I give you mic, but.
Oh, it's okay. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please stop me, or if I start talking a little lower, please just tell me, hey, I need to hear you, and we'll go through this. Some of this will not pertain to you guys as students, so we'll just pass right through it. This is also part of new employee orientation at the hospital. So once again, I'm Steve Morris, Director of Safety and Security. Our mission, Trover Health System is committed to providing a safe environment for patients, employees, and all other persons who visit the properties and facilities. Structure and adequate resources will be provided to ensure that all aspects of the environment are managed and monitored for safety, security, comfort, and well-being. This is the environment of care, and this is how the environment of care is made up as far as different committees and how we manage these certain areas in the hospital setting. Safe environment, secure environment, hazardous waste and materials, emergency management, fire safety, medical equipment management, and utility systems management. All of these areas have different regulatory requirements, and they report up to the environment of care, and that's just the way that we operate in the hospital setting. These various teams, general safety team, environmental management team, public safety team, and emergency management team meet bi-monthly or monthly and then report up to the environment of care. And that's how the puzzle fits together, so that we all are on the same page to make sure we're meeting all the regulatory requirements. All right, a lot of this is common sense stuff, so bear with me, but there are things that we are required to go over pertaining to safety and security. Always wear your name badge, okay? Patients and your co-workers, fellow students, your instructors need to know who you are and be able to identify you, so always make sure you're wearing your ID badges. We do have 24-hour security coverage at the hospital, and they are available for on-call emergencies and for escorting to and from vehicles, etc. Notify suspicious individuals. Please notify security of any suspicious activity that you may observe. Protection of valuables. You guys as students coming in to the hospital, you're responsible for your own personal belongings. That's common sense, you know, but things at the hospital do come up missing. They get stolen, misplaced, but you are ultimately responsible for those. So you guys have your own policies, I think, pertaining to that stuff. Parking lot security. Like I said, we do have a walkout service available. It is important for you guys to use the correct parking lot. Will you guys be parking here and walking over? Okay. You need to make sure you do that. So we won't go over this parking lot stuff, since you guys will be going walking on foot over to the campus. Keep all doors locked. You know, just common sense. If it's locked when you find it, make sure you lock it back. Forensic patients. You guys may encounter a forensic patient. That's just a patient that is an incarcerated individual that comes to the hospital for treatment, and they are afforded the same quality of care as any other patient, and we do keep them segregated, meaning you don't generally find a forensic patient in a dual occupancy room. You know, they're usually in their own room, away from other patients, and they will always be attended by a law enforcement officer. sheriff's deputy, police officer, state trooper, deputy jailer, something like that. They are trained in the same environment of care requirements as I'm instructing you in, so they know what they can and can't do. Now, one important thing you need to know, at no time are you to take custody of the individual. You are not to supervise anyone that is under arrest or incarcerated while they're in the hospital. They must be escorted at all times by a sworn officer or correctional officer. We can't relieve them for breaks so they can go to lunchroom or smoke a cigarette or anything like that. We cannot do that. So if you are asked by any of those personnel from those facilities, we cannot assume custody of an incarcerated individual as employees of Trover Health System or U.S. students can do that. Okay, fire safety. These are two acronyms that we use to explain the emergency response during a fire emergency and how to use a fire extinguisher. I'll go over those individually in just a second. There is smoke detection throughout the facility, the hospital, very sensitive. There are certain breathing treatments that will even set off the smoke detection, and the respiratory department, they know what those are, but there are certain breathing treatments that if they don't cover the sensor in the room when giving that, it will set off the smoke detectors. Water sprinklers are activated at 160 degrees, and we do have 100% coverage, meaning if they were to go off and disperse, it would saturate 100% of the area. There wouldn't be a dry square inch in the facility. So that's a good thing. All right, race, fire response, these are things you need to know. If there was a fire emergency, this is a quick way to remember what you do. First, you remove or rescue from danger. Then you alarm and alert by pulling a fire pull station. And contain and confine, that's pertaining to the smoke. You do that by closing doors. And we have doors in the facility that will automatically close when you pull the fire pull station. These doors will drop out. They're held open by mag locks. They will automatically close. They're smoke-rated doors that will compartmentalize the smoke so that smoke will not travel all the way throughout the facility, because smoke is what kills people in fires way before the fire actually gets to them most of the time. So that's a good thing. E stands for extinguish or evacuate. You've taken care of those first three, and you can get a fire extinguisher and attempt to extinguish the fire. When you evacuate in any high-rise or multi-floor building, you do so in three different ways. First, horizontally, from left to right, east to west, however you want to say it, within the floors, horizontally, then down to a lower level, vertically, and then totally away from the building once you reach the ground floor. Of course, you're never going to evacuate to get out of a fire emergency up. Don't go up, you know. That's not going to help you any. Also, don't use the stairs. When you pull the fire alarm at the hospital, the elevators will deactivate. So you will just be wasting your time trying to wait for an elevator. You must use the stairs. And also do not run. Try to stay calm. This is a slide that shows the compartmentation of the smoke to make sure that smoke doesn't travel throughout the facility. And for those doors that do not close, you'll see if you experience a fire drill or a fire emergency, it's common procedure for the nurses to go along and start shutting doors to all the extra doors, because the more doors you can shut, the less the smoke can travel throughout the facility. What happens when the fire alarm goes off, and that is a good question. All elevators, they deactivate, but they do so by all returning to the second floor and the doors open. So they will automatically shoot you straight down to the second floor and open up where you'll be on the ground level to evacuate. So you'll be taken care of. This is just an example of what happens when you leave a door open. Smoke travels possibly where you don't want it. All right. At the hospital, we have ABC dry chemical portable fire extinguishers, meaning they're good for most fires. They'll put out electrical fires, structural fires, chemical fires, things like that. They're good for those general things that we would encounter in the hospital environment. And this is an acronym we use to explain how to use a fire extinguisher. First thing you're going to do is pull the pin at the top of the fire extinguisher. There's a little round ring. You pull the pin. P stands for pull. Aim the nozzle at the base of the fire. Squeeze the handle and then sweep the nozzle from side to side at the base of the fire. So pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. That's how you use a fire extinguisher, and that acronym is PASS. So those are just basic things that you guys need to know. There is a no smoking policy at the hospital except in designated areas. You guys have your own smoking policy, I think, as far as students go. Is that correct? What you can and can't do while in your uniform. Evacuation routes. These are posted throughout the facility. Wherever you're doing your clinicals or your station, please make yourself familiar with the nearest evacuation route to make sure you know how to exit the building in the fastest manner if need be. Medical gas shutoff. There is medical gases that travel throughout the walls of the hospital. There are medical gas shutoff valves on each nursing unit where they can be accessed. The senior clinical person in the affected area has the authority to shut off the valves to ensure patient safety. Chances are you will not be asked as a student to ever shut off the medical gas. But in the event that you would be asked to, you never know. The medical gas, there's a little glass, it's a plexiglass box that you can see through in the wall by the nurses' stations generally. It's got a little ring on it. You just pull that casing off and the valves are always on. You just simply turn the valves opposite of the way that they're sitting, and that cuts off the medical gas. If there was an emergency, you may be asked on an outside chance to do that, but you chances are you never have. The exceptions of those shut-off areas are like the OR, operating room, labor and delivery, NICU, and wound care center. We don't follow that same procedure in there because there's procedures going on. You can't cut off the medical gas just like that in the middle of surgeries and wound treatments, etc. So that's about all you really need to know about that. Any questions thus far? Okay. All right. JCO and OSHA. JCO is known now as simply the Joint Commission, but that's who accredits the hospital as far as patient issues are concerned. We are required to meet their regulatory standards pertaining to patient care issues. OSHA is Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and we're required to comply with all OSHA laws, meaning that we must provide you a safe environment to work in and practice in. So that's just a little informational piece. All right, statistics show that most accidents are caused by actions of the individual, such as lack of attention, not following procedures, taking shortcuts, and rushing on the job. That being the case, 80% of accidents are due to acts or behavior, meaning that most accidents can be prevented if we stop and think about what we're doing, follow the procedures, and don't take shortcuts. In our field of work, we can't afford to take shortcuts. You know, it's too crucial and critical for us to make sure we do our job right the first time to avoid accidents for our safety and our patients' safety. So please pay attention to what you're doing. If you are injured on the job, report to your supervisor immediately, which I guess would be your instructor on hand there. Obtain the necessary treatment promptly and complete the paperwork. You guys, I'm sure, have your own procedures for how you report your illnesses and injuries, but we also need that for our documentation too. So make sure you follow up with personnel at the facility so that we have the proper documentation to take care of you if need be, or the situation, to ensure that no one else is hurt on the same equipment or in the same area. All right, electrical cords. Make sure that any electrical equipment or cords that you're going to use doesn't have bent prongs or ground prongs, where they can be plugged in easily and without a struggle. Make sure there's no damaged insulation where the wires are showing on the cords. Make sure you don't piggyback 5 or 6 extension cords, straying them across the hall, creating a trip hazard. You know, just use a little common sense when using the electrical equipment, and be mindful of others when using the hallways. Report all defects to the biomed department, or me, the safety officer. I can take care of making sure that whatever equipment is taken out of service and replaced with fully functional equipment. When reaching high areas, don't jump up on a chair or stack boxes. Make sure you use a ladder or step stool. Make sure you stay off the top steps and use a stable base before you start to climb. And don't overreach. All right, when walking up and down the halls, anticipate slippery conditions. We're always mopping and waxing, or someone's spilling something in the hallways. Be careful. Heed the wet floor signs at the hospital, and watch where you're going. Outside, especially this time of year, anticipate slippery conditions out in the parking lots, especially you guys walking from here over to the hospital. Chances are you're going to encounter some ice and some slick spots on the sidewalks and parking lots, so be careful. When walking up and down the stairs, keep your hands out of your pockets, because you can't catch yourself if you've got your hands in your pockets walking up and down the stairs. It sounds kind of silly, but that could really cause a serious injury if you're bopping up and down the stairs with your hands in your pockets. It could end pretty bad if you were to lose your balance. Always use the handrails as well. PPE, personal protective equipment. For any job that you're going to be asked to perform, or any task at the hospital, you will be provided the necessary hand protection, eye protection, respiratory protection, whatever it may be, to perform that job safely. We have the equipment on hand there, so please do not ever feel that you have to do anything without the proper protective personal equipment. It's there for your protection. Please take advantage of that, and we are required to use that, so please do that. Any questions about anything? Hazardous material and waste. There are eye wash stations throughout the facility. If you were to get some kind of contaminant in your eye, whether it be, say, bleach or any chemical or body fluid, anything you didn't want in your eyes, get to an eye wash station, activate the eye wash station, hold your eyes open as seen in the illustration here, and flush for 15 minutes. There's a couple of different kinds that we have at the facility. One is activated kind of like a push paddle that you activate with your hands, or a pedal that you step on and activates kind of like in the illustration here. The other is an apparatus that is mounted in exam rooms, and you swing the nozzle over the sink basin and it activates automatically, and you hold your eyes open and flush like in the illustration. So make yourself aware of where those eye wash stations are, so that in case you ever need to use one, or one of your co-workers or fellow students need that service, you can get them there quickly. All right, there's a hazard communication plan that we must comply with. as it pertains to the employee right to know law, meaning you have the right to know the identity and information of any hazardous materials in the workplace. We have provided that to you by giving you access to the MSDS information, okay? That is on the Trover intranet, on the home page of the Trover intranet. At every computer in the hospital, there's a tab for MSDS on the right-hand column, and that's a material safety data sheet. And there you will find a database maintained by my department that has each product in each department that has any hazardous properties whatsoever is uploaded to that system. And the MSDS sheet will tell you the chemical properties, hazards, precaution, prevention, spill cleanup procedures, disposal, and everything else you could ever want to know about any of these substances is found on an MSDS sheet. And that's in case you were to, let's just use bleach for an example. Get bleach in your eyes, you would know, okay, what kind of first aid do I need for this? What kind of protection do I need when cleaning up that mess? How do I dispose of it once I get to that point? All of that's provided on an MSDS sheet. We're required by federal law, OSHA, to provide that to all of our employees, and we do that by having the MSDS database on the online on the Trover intranet. All right, we're going to go one by one through these pretty quickly, and we're moving right along. We have to go through the emergency management codes that you may encounter or experience while at the hospital. And these are standardized codes, and I'm going to go one by one through these. And if you have any questions, please stop me and I'll clarify and answer them to the best of my ability. Code Blue is a medical emergency. This is one of the most common codes you will hear at the hospital. It's either a cardiac or respiratory arrest. It's a life-threatening situation. Basically, it's meaning someone is dying and they are in need of emergency response in order to try to save their life. So let's take a scenario. For example, say nurse goes into room 357 and the patient has no pulse, is not responsive. Nurse is going to call out and ask for a code to be called. They're going to call down to PBX, which is the hospital operators. They're going to call a code blue, request a code blue be called for patient in room 357. The operator is going to get on the intercom and page code blue 3 East, room 357. Code blue 3 East, room 357. And they're going to repeat that just like that until all the necessary personnel respond to that area. Okay. The doctors, nurses, security, EKG, all of the necessary personnel will respond to that area. When the doctor sees that he or she has adequate resources to work that emergency, they will request that the code be secured. Call back down to PDX and they'll say, secure the code. Dr. So-and-so has ordered it be secured. So, then you'll hear page, code blue, 3 East, room 357, secured. Now I go through that long explanation, basically so you know, when a code is called, you know that there is a response needed. When a code is secured, there's no longer a need for response. Now, you guys will have your own procedures when there's a code going on of what you're able to do and what you're not able to do, but I'm just giving you that information so you'll know, you'll be educated as to what is going on when you're hearing this. It may be just very important for you to stay out of the way. I don't know. Any questions about that? Code 77 is an emergency for a specific individual or department. Let's say there's a fight in the front lobby of the hospital and they need security. You may hear 77 security front lobby page. Say Dr. Rao, who's a surgeon, is needed in operating room 10 immediately. You may hear it paged over the intercom. 77, Dr. Rao, OR room 10. That's how 77 is used for an individual or department specifically. Code red is our fire code. Fire drills are conducted frequently. Fire response teams are dispatched to the areas. Fire doors, like I spoke about earlier, close automatically, and for those that do not, we close them to keep the smoke from spreading. Don't prop open or put items in front of doors. You may be thinking that if I prop open this door, it'll help with evacuation, but truly what that does is create a trip hazard at the door and also allow smoke to travel through the facility, so that's not a good idea. Code red, you may hear paged for a fire emergency, obviously, or you may hear it paged as code red, this is a drill. Okay, say we have a fire drill to be conducted on the 4th floor west wing. You'll hear it paged. Code red, 4 west, this is a drill. And you'll hear that in plain speech, this is a drill. So, if you hear a code red and they're not saying this is a drill, by all means, take it seriously. That means there's a fire emergency, immediate threat. So, all right, those first 3 codes are the most common. The remaining codes that we have on hand for use at the hospital are not so common, but we do have them in place if need be. Code black is a bomb threat. Each area is responsible for searching their own unit. If suspicious item is found, call the control center, which we will assemble. If we have an ongoing emergency, we will open an incident command center, and we will respond and investigate as appropriate. Do not attempt to touch or handle any suspicious item, of course, in any bomb threat situation. Code yellow is a general, kind of a blanket code for any disaster that is an ongoing event, like the ice storm that we had a couple of years ago. We operated under a code yellow format for at least 4 days a couple of years ago during that big ice storm. Disaster is any event that challenges the ability of the hospital to respond with adequate resources. And the ice storm was a good example of both an internal and external disaster, because we had our own problems at our facility, and so did the community externally. So that's a good reference point for what a code yellow is. Code gray is a patient or visitor behavior. Could be a fight, could be an argument, getting out of hand. Contact security via PBX, and I'll tell you here in a minute the quickest way to contact security or to report an emergency via PBX. Remain calm and speak in a soft, reassuring tone until security arrives, and ensure you have direct access to an exit from the area. And that is a good general rule there. Working in close confines of patient rooms and things like that, you want to always make sure, if you feel threatened or if you're working with someone that has a history of aggressive behavior, don't back yourself in a room. Always give yourself an exit. Don't put yourself in a corner or put that thread in between you and the exit. So ensure you always have direct access. Code silver is much like a code gray, only it's a little more serious because there's a weapon involved, an imminent weapons threat. Once again, you contact PBX to alert security and the police, and if possible, evacuate yourself from the immediate area. Close and lock the door, stay out of sight of suspect, and do not under any circumstances attempt to disarm the suspect. Code purple is a hostage event. Once again, contact PBX to alert security and the police. Remain calm, do not attempt to negotiate with the suspect, and ensure you have direct access to an exit from the area. Code orange is a hazardous material event. If you were to break a vial of acid, for example, or something hazardous at the hospital, report that spill immediately. You're going to report that to someone or contact security so that security can come to the area and secure the area to ensure that no one gets in the range of harm for whatever that is. If it's a harmful vapor or skin irritant, whatever it may be, we're going to come to that area, secure the area, and then we're going to look up the properties of the substance on the MSDS to make sure that we're protected before we go to clean it up. Then we're going to make sure it's disposed of properly, and that's why we go through those steps for reporting it, securing the area. That way we can make sure we're taking care of it in the most safe way possible. Code Pink is an infant or child abduction. In the event that this were to happen, we do have response teams that would be dispatched to certain designated exits of the hospital. There would be no one allowed to leave the facility that without first being screened for making sure they did not have a child with them. Law enforcement agencies will be notified, and as in all emergency cases, we do receive good police responsiveness. There is an infant abduction alarm and system on the 7th floor. There's transponders that are attached to infants or children on their wrist or on their ankles that set off the alarm system and lock down the floor so that they are unable to get off of the 7th floor. And the elevators go down to the 2nd floor, and that they are disengaged as well. So that's a good system. However, we cannot have a false sense of security with that because an infant abduction could happen anywhere else in the facility. So we have to be aware of that potential in any waiting room or public area for that matter. Code T is a trauma alert. Emergency department trauma support staff are who are most affected by any trauma out in the community. Best thing for you guys to know, or anybody else for that matter, if you're not involved in the immediate care pertaining to a trauma, then you just really need to stay out of the way and let those people get to where they need to go quickly and do their job. Tornado. This is different than all of our other codes because we do not have a code tornado. What you will hear during a tornado warning event, when the threat is imminent, you will hear the tornado warning paged over the intercom, much like we receive it from the National Weather Service. It'll sound something like, your attention please, there's a tornado warning in effect for Hopkins County until 2 p.m. this afternoon. Please seek shelter immediately. Something like that. What we will do then is close windows and doors, get people away from windows, cover patients, and if there is time, bring patients to lower floors. We do not page the tornado watches because if we did, then we would do that every other hour all spring long during tornado season, and people would start ignoring those pages. So what we do page is the imminent threats and the warning when they are real and we need to take action. Code Green is our flight risk suicide watch code. When someone has eloped, there will be signs on beside certain patient rooms. It's a green sign with a heart with wings out from the heart located outside of the door. When you see that sign, that's to give the personnel working with that individual a signal that they need to keep an extra close watch on that person to make sure they don't try to leave the unit without permission. Same could be an Alzheimer's patient that's prone to wandering, or it could be someone on suicide watch. So we need to keep an extra close eye on those people. If you find those individuals outside of their room and unattended, please let staff know on the floor, call PBX to alert security so we can help bring that person back to their room. All right, these numbers are important. Basically for you guys, that first number there, the 5777 for RMC, since you're going to be working at the hospital. You go to any phone and pick up the phone and dial 5777. That's going to go straight to the hospital operator to a special line designated for emergencies only. The operator will drop what they're doing and answer that call and make sure that you're taken care of. You won't have to wait for your call to be answered in the order that it was received. That 5777 goes straight to a dedicated line that they are trained to answer promptly. So if you need to report a fire or need security immediately, that's how you get them the quickest. If you need 911 immediately, then by all means dial 911. But if you need internal emergency response from someone, security or otherwise, you do so dialing 5777. HICS is the Hospital Incident Command System. I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but this is how we manage ourselves and organize ourselves during a disaster. That system is used by all emergency agencies, fire, police, military, state emergency management agencies. All use the Incident Command System. We call it the Hospital Incident Command System in our environment, but we all have defined roles and responsibilities and leadership to make sure that we have a continuity of operations during a disaster and that we can still take care of our patients adequately and we can continue as a business. But I'm not going to get into great detail about that. Communications, we communicate by word of mouth, electronically, phones, intercoms, pagers, radios. We also have a satellite radio on hand at the hospital. If all else failed, we would still be able to contact other hospitals in the area and throughout the state and the government officials in Frankfurt at the Department of Public Health with our satellite radio. So, like the ice storm, the cell phone towers were affected, pager towers were affected, our phones went down, but we could still use our satellite radio to communicate. So that's a good redundant means of communication and a good resource that we do have. Labor pool, this will not affect you so much, but if we were to open up a labor pool during an ongoing disaster at the hospital, it would be on the second floor of the RMC auditorium. You may be asked, I can't say that you wouldn't be asked if we needed a helping hand, you may be asked to report to a labor pool during a disaster and to help with our activities there. And you may be asked to report to the second floor of the auditorium. There your credentials would be checked and you let them know who you are and to what level are you trained to, and they would place you where your resources were needed most. So, once again, during any emergency, do not congregate at or in the emergency department. We do perform risk-based preventive maintenance on all of our medical equipment. Our biomedical department, they're kind of like our in-house fix-it handyman of medical equipment. They take care of all of that preventive maintenance on all of our equipment in-house, and that there's inspection stickers on all of the equipment that we use stating when it was last checked and making sure that it's up to date. Immediately report any equipment defects or errors that you may find to the biomed department, and use all the equipment according to manufacturer's instructions and as you've been trained. We do have emergency power at the hospital from the diesel generators in our boiler room. We have approximately 107 hours worth of diesel fuel on hand. A little over 4 days worth we can run on emergency power using our diesel fuel with our generators. The red outlets and the red light switches that you see at the hospital, those are all wired in on the emergency circuit. So while the regular cream colored outlets or white outlets will not work, if you get to a red outlet and turn on the light switch, you will get light from that. All of the, say, surgery departments down in critical care, those areas, of course, have an abundance of emergency circuits for their life support equipment and surgical equipment, so that the power doesn't go out on them. So you will always be able to use the red light switches and red wall outlets if need be during a power outage. All right, safety and quality is how we do our business at the hospital. It is the culture of Trover Health System. Please make it yours. Is there any questions whatsoever? Do you have any questions for me about anything while I'm here? All right. I appreciate you guys listening to me for a little bit. I know it's not the most exciting of material, but like I said, those are things we have to go over with you guys doing your clinicals at the hospital, and I appreciate your attention. So thank you. Sign issue? Yeah. Thank you.
Do you know where Tom's Furniture is at? Okay, at that light, Tom's Furniture is over there on the left, right there. Go through that light, and there's a brown brick building on the left, and it'll have Davis Associates on there. That's where I do my taxes. If you go to the next light, you went too far. Yes.
They're trying to save money so they can patch the roof.
What do you want to know? You have to set an appointment at the office. Can't just walk in.
All right, thanks.
Do not go to no H&R Block. I will kick your butt. Yeah. Well, go to Davis Associates. Tell him he'll find your way to get you some money. Get you out over yours. That's where I've been going since 5-7 years now. Every time you go to the road, or used to go. So I remember me going there because if I didn't trust him, I wouldn't be going. So you want the number? I'll just text it to you. All right. All right, bye.
That's her statement. And I'm like, you're just going. Everyone knows, you don't have to. Sorry,
Like the first time I did it was after my son had been on sleep virus, and I was kind of sick, and I was just having all over the place. And I made no mentions. My teacher was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Just fell." I don't know what to do. I did outer to inner on the stomach.
Might be a little
did a lot on this side and then same direction, and I put it in.
Okay, everybody want that?